thank you for meeting me with Pop Horror, and I have Alex and Wesley, who are y'all are both co-writer and co-directors for Summoning Sylvia, correct?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure because I forgot who I was speaking with, but they were referring to Alex. I was like, but there's two of them because
That's right.
I was super excited. Like when I got the notice for the review and I saw what the synopsis of the film was like, oh, this is gonna be fun. So I really enjoyed it. I did my little review to start. I actually just interviewed Frankie on Monday and I showed
Oh,
it to my
good.
mom. Showed Summoning Sylvia to my mom and she loved it. So
Oh,
So
good.
great.
we really really
Thanks. Yeah, we really want people to have a great time when they watch the movie.
We want everyone to show their mom this movie. If everyone's mother sees this movie, our job has been.
then
Yeah.
then we're happy. Yeah, then we're happy.
Yeah, that's was one of the things I highlighted in the review that I found is like super important because with the way a lot of the horror fans are, you have some toxic fandom and they would look and say, "Oh, that's not for me." And I'm like, it's like a love note for us to our community for sure. Because I'm a lesbian, like it's a love note to our community as well. But I mean, the main themes in this are important for everyone, you know. And so how did you guys come up with the concept for Summoning Sylvia and what was your process like writing and creating it together?
Sure. Well, thank you for saying all of that first. And we're really happy to be here talking to you. And how did we come up with it? Well, Wes and I had been already writing and creating things together for a few years. We made a web series together called Indoor Boys. That's on Here TV. And so then when the shutdown happened, we were looking to do our next thing that would take us to the next level. And we thought we want to make a movie. We want to make a feature film. And we got really into horror movies when the shutdown happened, and we were just devouring them and watching. I think Wes and I have always loved the horror genre, and but when the shutdown happened, suddenly it felt like all horror movies all the time for some reason. It just felt like this was calling out to us, and so it was up to us to sort of answer the call. And so it started off with the idea of just taking our kind of wacky, funny, queer, interesting characters and putting them into this setting, and into the setting that was, knocking on our door. So it started there, and then Wes, do you want to pick up from here?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that, like, as we were having a steady diet of horror and horror comedies, we were watching a lot of horror comedies. You're like, okay, what's our version of the horror? Like, what's Alex and I's voice in a horror movie? And how can we take our specific voice and how we write stories into this new genre that we would like to explore? So it's actually not a proper horror movie in the way that you understand horror with like body count and that kind of stuff. It is more of a spooky comedy. It lives in the world of a horror movie, but it is comedy forward.
Mhm.
And yeah, I totally understand. And we also thought the same thing, that because it's campy and because it's queer forward, that a lot of audiences would be shut off from that or turned off, when they see the trailer or whatever. But the feedback we've been getting is just so satisfying because it's like really resonating with straight audiences. Um, but yeah, that's the sort of origin, is like we were really able to focus as writers during the pandemic because suddenly our acting careers were naturally on the back burner because the world was shut down, and so we were able to get on Zoom every day for a handful of hours and like really churn out some full-length scripts. And this was the first one of those that got funded and off to the races, and so we were in business.
Nice. Frankie mentioned that you guys did it in 19 days. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
That's
it was
right.
it was really intense. Um, because we're first-time filmmakers, and because this is such this can be looked at as such a niche movie. Our budget was limited, and so we tried to move mountains in our limited budget. And the main way that budget constraints limit you is in terms of time. You only have a certain amount of time to get the things that you need to get. But thankfully, we had this really awesome crew and cast who worked in very challenging conditions. Like we all essentially came out of lockdown and stepped onto our set. So it was hard. I mean, we filmed this in the summer of 21, and we were, we were all working really hard together and sometimes struggling to figure out, how do we operate in the world suddenly? How do we all come together to do this? But thankfully, we had so many amazing people who really stepped up to the plate, and Wes and I were very lucky to work with all of them and learn from them, and we could work on becoming better directors and writers through that process.
It's been very cool to see the cast see the movie, because thinking back to that June in Newark, New Jersey, during a heat wave, 19 days of like hell, to make a movie, it is really, really rewarding to watch the cast see the movie and like be overwhelmed and happy with it. It's been really, really, really nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm a filmmaker as well, and when he said 19 days, I'm like, they did a feature in 19 days. I'm sorry, surprised you guys didn't like just burn out. That's pretty incredible.
Oh, I mean, we were close to the brink.
Almost killed us, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like the writing in it is just so incredible. Like one of the things that and it's not a conventional horror movie, and I did make sure to mention that in the review so that people, you kind of manage expectations. But that's the thing. It's like the funny thing, you guys are saying that you're consuming all this horror during the pandemic, and for me, I think because there were some other things going on in my life personally aside from the chaos that was outside, I grew up loving slasher films and gore. I wanted to be a special effects makeup artist when I was like 5,
Cool.
and I had like this whole like Nancy was like my favorite final girl. I was like, that's gonna be me when I grow up, all kinds of craziness. And then somewhere along the lines, I couldn't do gore anymore. And even though I knew it was fake, like just really violent scenes and stuff like that, I would shut down.
Yeah.
And so I started looking more at supernatural and psychological type horror. And of course, I've always loved horror comedy, and so I appreciate when there's a horror film that has like a relative happy ending. Like the ending was so sweet in this movie, and like I actually cried. I was like, oh, it's like.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you.
I mean, because they abuse us in horror movies most often,
right.
And that was something that was important to us. Sorry to interrupt you, but that was something that was important to us. Was we didn't want to see a movie where gay guys were getting killed off, and we didn't want to see like slitting their throats and doing all this stuff. We wanted them to thrive, and be scared and spooked and all the stuff, but we really wanted them to thrive. That was a goal of ours.
And it's not to say that the movie isn't heart racing. I think it is. I think it still is full of suspense and some fun thrills, but it's definitely a very suspenseful comedy more than anything. And like Wes said, we were okay. We were at peace with the decision of not making this a true horror movie, even though we also, I love a good final girl kind of movie. I love a creature feature. I love a supernatural. But I don't know. I think this kind of story also just developed out of our need to. I think the characters really dictated what happened in this story, because we created these. We sort of didn't know where it was going when we started writing it. I'm kind of remembering this as I'm talking, but when we started writing this, we had no idea what we wanted this to be. I think one of the original conceits was having a woman appear and be a comedic relief character.
At first, it was, if you remember, Alex, several women.
Oh, right. We were going to have, oh God. And there's nothing I want more than, this is real, than a movie with several great character actresses, like sign me up.
Yeah.
But it ended up being, we kind of realized in order to answer the questions that these characters were posing, this felt like the right path to go down. And so we just the story just took shape. We really just accepted the doors that were opening in front of us.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, technically lesbians were there in spirit, because we did mention that one of the characters that cracked me up. That was one of my, and then
they are a gentle people.
Yeah, so my favorite line.
Good.
But so I know you guys have, I've seen your credits and I haven't had a chance to check out some of the projects, but I know you guys have worked together before on your writing. So I would imagine at this point it's a pretty, you have your process down. But what was it like? Like, how did you guys come to start writing together? Because I know me, I'm kind of apprehensive about co-writing with people because it's like you kind of have to, it's either you're opposite enough to where you fill in the gaps, or you're kind of like simpatico. So
Yeah.
did you guys start with that?
May I, Alex?
Of course.
So before Alex, I did a lot of digital work, and I had another creative partner, but I was mainly the writer, and he was mainly the director, and like we did both a little bit. But I was really looking for. I didn't know I was looking for Alex, but it feels like I was writing and writing and writing, but I wasn't. My full voice hadn't changed. Like my full potential. Like there was something missing, and Alex was that missing piece for me personally. He is my other half creatively, completely, and there are many advantages, and it's not for everyone. A writing team is not for everyone. A lot of people are more powerful alone, but I know in my world, his head and my head, two heads better than one, and it's an accountability, not just in terms of motivation, in terms of like doing the work every day like a 9-to-5 job, which is kind of required for longevity as a writer. Like we have this romantic view that you get struck with inspiration and you stay up all night writing your opus and like but that doesn't sustain. That's not healthy, and it doesn't create a long life of product, I think. So we have a very like Monday through Friday 9-to-5, which sounds counterintuitive to creative, but it works. It creates like such a structure for us, which I think how we are wired, that's how it works best. Also accountability in the terms of, I think I'm guilty of, because I'm very ambitious and proactive, congratulating myself too early and wanting to go make the thing and create the thing quickly.
Yeah.
Whereas Alex forces me to throw as much paint at the wall as possible. And also my ambition is good for Alex, and so there are strengths and weaknesses that complement each other and make us just a really, I think, powerful duo.
Yeah, I was going to say, Wes, to your point there, is that if it were up to me, I would just stay in process forever and never release anything. And just keep
very
working.
Pure and process oriented.
Yeah, I'm so pure, but I mean, but it's nice because Wes and I kind of meet in the middle with that, and we help each other in a lot of ways. And it's nice that I think us working together, for me at least, it helps me shed ego. That it's a lot about as we're also creating, we're also in real time compromising with each other and having really spirited debates about what is the best version of this, what word is going to communicate the biggest picture, what is that big picture, we have to verbalize it, we have to talk about it with each other. So it brings the writing out of whatever circle you're going in your head and brings it to a collective center, and so that really serves us, I think.
As an artist, it's so vulnerable to share your work, obviously, and like get feedback on your work. So like what you were saying about like it'd be scary to share, to it is, and it was. It's not scary anymore. But at the beginning of our working relationship, I do remember having ego and vulnerability surrounding just sharing each other's drafts. Like the way we used to work is I would write a scene, then he would rewrite it, then I would rewrite it. We would just send it back and forth. But then the beauty of the pandemic, I don't want to sound tone deaf here. It was a really terrible time for a lot of people, but the silver lining that we found was very challenging at first, actually, when we would share a screen on Zoom and you are literally writing a line in front of someone watching you write it, which can feel extremely fragile and vulnerable, But something really gorgeous happened where through the span of the last 6 or 7 years we worked together, there was a trust that was built and a voice that was evolved into where I am not my worst joke. So I can fail, I can write a bad line or a joke and know that Alex isn't going anywhere. Like he knows my capabilities and my potential, and vice versa. So
Right. Well, that's awesome, and I'm sure it'll potentially happen at some point that I may find co-writer, but at this
yeah,
point I'm still trying to learn how. I'm still trying to integrate back into the world in general, like post-pandemic. It's like social life. What is
Us
that?
too. Us
that's
too.
Public?
I
So,
know.
but okay, so I always have to ask. You guys mentioned the binging of the horror. I guess what is your favorite horror film, franchise, or villain? And do you guys see yourself making any other horror films?
Alex.
Well, to your second question first is our next film, I believe, if everything keeps going on track, is less horror, but pretty darn suspenseful, but also pretty darn funny. So I think we're never really going to shed an element of suspense in our work. I think we like feeling like the queer Alfred Hitchcocks in a way. um, so we'll see, but we'll see. I mean, I would absolutely make another horror movie. It is just such a joyous world to live in. And a favorite of mine, I'm really into I've been really into the Chucky series. I I love it. I mean, it's so ridiculous, as we know, but it's so. I love that they managed to create a slasher world that is also so queer and so feeling of the present day, feeling like it's the story of teenagers today. I just think that's really cool that they're managing to do that.
Yeah. Don does do some pretty impressive things with the Chucky franchise, and the series has been crazy.
Yeah, it's
I'm
crazy.
excited for season 3.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, yeah, starting backwards first, our next film is very much a thrilling, suspenseful, dark situation, but comedy forward again, because that's who we are.
Right.
But yeah, we would totally be down to keep messing around in that world. And then the first movie that popped in my head that really was the game changer for me was Get Out. And Get Out was a big inspiration for us in terms of outsider in someone else's world. What is the gay version of Get Out? You know, what is that inner struggle, self-loathing, self-hatred, you know, like how can we expose that and deal with it? You know, something that was interesting when we were editing Indoor Boys, our web series from years ago, is we would, you know, we were the leads of that, and we were editing ourselves, and I just remember a very distinct moment of the edit where we were de-essifying my sibilant S's, which was a whole experience for me, and which kind of catapulted us into, let us lead with our full chest this alliteration title of Summoning Sylvia.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, you guys do you do the suspense very, very well. That's one of the other things that, because it was literally like situation after situation, and I'm like, oh my god, what's gonna happen next? And a lot of the times it's difficult for me to turn off my writer's brain when I'm watching movies, and so I'm looking for plot points, I'm looking for where things are going to transition and shift, and I'm like, okay, this is probably going to happen, yep, they did it. That's probably going to happen, yep, they did it. And I hate that it happens, because it just happens so naturally. So being able to watch something and just be completely lost in it and just be like, oh, you know, it's always a joy. So I mean, Summoning Sylvia is definitely one of my like literal favorite movies on my list of top list of favorites.
Oh,
So
wow, thank you.
Wow. I mean,
I
that's big praise.
but I'm looking forward to whatever you guys have coming out next, because it was, yeah, it was a whole. I think films should be more of an experience than, because like especially when you are working in the horror realm, whether it's, you know, comedy or any other like subgenre. A lot of things have kind of been done, and so they repeat the same formulas. And in a way, when you look at the horror community as a large whole, it's like they don't like when things get messed around with. You know, it's like, oh, well, that's not how that's supposed to be, and I'm not into that. But when you start subverting expectations and you start playing around with different things, I think that kind of grows. It expands the genre. You know. So that's another thing that I really, I mean, I just love it. It's like I love the film so much, and I was excited to get to talk to you guys about it. 'Cause it's like I want to tell them how much I loved it. Um,
Thank
and
you.
so, but not be too fangirly. Sorry, I should be more
No,
professional.
dude.
I mean, it means a lot to us because, like, you know, we're fans too. You know, we wouldn't be doing this if we didn't have these other filmmakers and actors and craftspeople who we would go nuts for. You know, but
Also,
we're
no artist doesn't. No artist. Every artist enjoys validation. So like, there's not a single creative person who is like, "Why would you tell me that?" You know, like even if they're putting that on as a front, like everyone wants to be complimented because we need it. We need validation.
well, we need to know that what we're doing is making an impact, and
Yeah.
it's really very affirming to hear that all the many struggles that Wes and I went through in making this movie, and the blood, sweat, and tears, it ultimately impacted someone. So
Yeah, it's good stuff, and I will continue to sing praises and be like, you need to watch this. You should watch this. Check it out.
Too. Can you be our lesbian representative in
Absolutely.
your community?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but do you guys have anything else that you'd like to add, or anything else that you'd like to kind of expand on, or because it's pretty much the course of questions.
Yeah, I mean, download, rent, purchase, Summoning Sylvia everywhere you rent, purchase, download films. Apple TV,
All the
iTunes,
places.
Amazon Prime, all the places on demand. Comcast, Xfinity, Spectrum, all the places.
yeah, and just thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Very cool. Well, hopefully I get to chat with you guys next time around, and if you need anything else from me, I'm pretty sure they have my contact, and just let me know. But you guys take care. It was a great time. Appreciate you.